Hi guys, welcome back to BBR Suspension. Today we are going to be doing a rear shock on a TZR 250. It is one of the last ones made, the 3XV version, 1994 model. So what we're going to do, we're going to get the shock pulled out the bike and we'll get it stripped down. We're going to basically do a service on the shock, change the shock oil, and then we'll get the nitrogen charged up and then get the shock ready to go back into the bike. We'll turn it from a pogo into a go slow. Well, not go slow, but go slow on the rebound and compression. Right, let's get started. Right guys, so what I've done, I had a look at a couple of options of how we're going to get the shock out. What I figured is instead of loosening the exhaust pipes and the fairings and everything to get it out, I managed to get it out through the top. So what I've done, I've loosened the rear hugger on the rear tire just to give me a little bit more space. I'm going to try and zoom in, see if we can get a little bit more. You can see it gives you just a little bit more space. And what we've done, we've drained the two-stroke tank, and by laterally wiggling the tank backwards, I created enough place to get the shock out the top. So we've got the shock out. I also had to remove the foot peg hangers just to get to the lower bolts. If they're still on, they're kind of in the way, limits your working space. So I had to loosen foot peg hangers, and the gear shift and rear brake hang off those foot peg hangers. So those are just dangling off at the moment. Got all the bolts in one spot. One thing to obviously remember, drain the two-stroke tank before you loosen it, otherwise you're going to be ice skating on two-stroke oil on the floor. Right, so the shock's out. I will clean that up off camera and I'll see you back at the bench shortly. Okay, right guys, let's get started. So we're going to get the shock into my suspension vise. And what we're going to do, okay, a couple of things first. My Japanese is not that good, but I think that is a warning. There's high pressure nitrogen in this chamber, so if you don't know what you're doing, take your shock to a suspension professional and let them work on it. Don't try this at home if you're not 100% competent. Right, we're going to get the spring off. That's the starting point. We can then blow off the nitrogen in the chamber, and then we'll start stripping the actual shock body. So let's get started. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to get a little bit of just a light penetrating oil. As I said earlier, the shock is a 1990, or the motorcycle is a 1994 motorcycle, and I doubt if the shock has ever been off. So we're going to see, hopefully that oil will give us a bit of release. Shock body is turning, so we need to tighten this up. And let's see, we may need to use a soft punch just to break. Yeah, we are going to need a soft punch. So we use a brass punch, which is a soft material, just to break the seal on the locking rings. These can be pretty tight. What happens is water gets in to the threads and in between the two locking rings, and it forms an oxide layer which acts like glue. Let's get that oil, a little bit of time to do some work. There we go. So we've got the top locking ring loose. A little bit of grit and grime on those threads. You'll get that cleaned up nicely once the body is dismantled. Right, we're going to give a little bit more of the oil on the second ring, just to make sure that the threads are nicely lubricated. If the locking rings have any tendency to want to bind, then stop and clean the threads. I have cleaned the shock after removing it from the motorcycle off camera, so we should be good. Let's just try and get that springs catching on the shock, on the vise. So we'll just loosen it up a little bit. So as you can see, spring is loose now. What we do, we flip the shock upside down. Okay. Let's see if we can move the bump rubber down slightly on the shaft, just to free up some space. There we go. And there's a retaining collar which will slip out, and we get the spring off. Okay, you can see the bump rubber at the bottom floats up and down the shock shaft. It is not a fixed item. We're going to clean up all the dirt that sits under the bump rubber, and when we reassemble, we'll put a little bit of grease there to protect the chrome on the shaft itself. Right, now the next stage, let's pop these in that tray. The next stage is we need to get that nitrogen, we need to get the nitrogen charging bolt loose. Out. Okay, so yeah, there was a smidge of nitrogen still in there. Okay, so with all the nitrogen out. Okay, so what I've seen in taking this out, this bolt actually forms the seal, and if you look, you can see the rubber inside it. So we don't need to fit the Race Tech bolt. This one has got rubber. The screw is basically just a cover. We can charge nitrogen through the rubber with our syringe needle. So we'll get the shock stripped, get it back together, and service it. Right, so now we loosen on the canister. We flip it onto the shock body. We'll get a little bit of light lubricating oil again, just on all the parts. So what we'll do, we're going to see if the seal head moves. I'm I'm not too sure if this specific seal head is a threaded seal head or if it pops out like the conventional shocks on motocross bikes. Those are most of the ones I work on motocross bikes. Okay, so that one looks like it's a conventional one. It should pop out. I'm just going to grab a flathead screwdriver and we should be able to get that out. Or we can try with the soft punch on the sides. Yeah, it's coming out. So let's turn it around a little bit. You can see if we can get in, the angle allows us. Turn it back. See, we should be able to tap the seal head cover out. There we go. That comes loose. Once we've got that out, I use a standard washing peg just to hold it out the way. Then what we'll do, we'll push the seal head back and there's a retaining circlip. We pop the circlip out and everything will come apart. Let me just get a seal head driver. I'll be back in a second. Okay guys, so my seal head driver, the smallest one I've got, doesn't fit. Like I said, most of the work I do is motocross suspension. So we're going to use a screwdriver and just tap the seal head down. We'll tap it in a few spots. Just lightly tap it down. We literally need about 2 millimeters of travel on the seal head to be able to release the clip. See if that's gone down enough. Just use a bit of paper towel, clean it up quickly. Need a little bit more travel there. Let's see if we can get that seal head to move. Not quite moving as much as I'd like. Let me see if I can make a plan to squeeze it down. Right guys, okay, that seal head is pretty tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little seal head driver quickly. I'm going to use some aluminium tubing, part off a piece and cut a slot in it to go around the shaft. And then we should be able to squeeze that seal head in a couple of mils and get the retaining clip loose. So let's make one. Alright guys, we got the new tool in. Now I can use a little bit more force. We can get the seal head to move down, hopefully. Let's see, we've got enough movement. Can still go a little bit more. Okay, we're going to have to possibly give it a squeeze with a long clamp. So let me get prepped to do that. Okay, right, let's see if we can get this to move now. Put a little bit of pressure with the clamp on, and we should get some movement happening. And then a light tap with the brass punch on the other side should give us some movement. See, it looks like we did get a wee bit of movement there. No, it's damaging the seal head cover. Okay guys, we've got this set up in the press. It's really just giving us a hard time, so let's see if we can get that seal head to move. A little bit of force. Okay, that shouldn't happen. And that seal head just does not want to move. Right, so the seal head cap we're going to have to remake. Let's see if we can get a bit of pressure on the seal head directly, not using the cap. See if we can get it to budge. There we go. That's all we asked for. So that seal head has moved back about 4 millimeters, which exposes the ring that we can now get out. Right guys, okay, so things don't always go according to plan. As you saw, the seal head cap shattered on the press. Fortunately I've got a lathe so we can make a new one. Right, the next step is to get this retaining circlip out. Sometimes these can be pretty difficult to get out. There's been one or two that have taught me some new swear words. That one came out pretty easily. You need basically a seal pick and a tiny screwdriver and you normally get them out okay. Right, now what we'll do, we'll see quickly if the seal head is going to budge, which it's not. So what we're going to have to do, I'm going to try and set up 2 toe jacks and actually pull it out completely. Judging on how difficult it was to get the seal head to move, I'm guessing we might have a bit of a battle on our hands, but we'll make a plan and get it to work. Right guys, so as difficult as the seal head was to get pressed in so we can get the clip loose, it's proving to want to give me grey hairs getting it out. So I've had to set up 2 toe jacks and we're going to try and crank it out little by little and just try and get it past the point where it needs, where it'll crack loose, and hopefully we can get it loose. Let's see what we can do. If this works, then it definitely is moving, that's for sure. Okay, it looks like we're on the maximum extension of the toe jack there, so let me try and see if I can put in a slightly thicker spacer and we can try and get it loose. Definitely does look like it is moving though. Yeah, we definitely got some movement there, so I think that is going to be the way to try and get it. It's going to be latching that in underneath and just edging it out for now, and then we can flip it over and do the same from the other side a little later. By a 2-stroke, they said, will be fun, and they said these things are temperamental. If they test your temper to the limit and then they make you mental. To just catch it with the tip of the toe. Right, we should be able to get a little bit more movement there. Never had a shock that's given me this much grief before, to be honest. I'm wondering if a little bit of heat on the shock body might help. Definitely got a little bit of movement there. There we go. I heard that loosen. So I think we're definitely good. There we go. seal head loose. I'm just going to take the piggyback reservoir off quickly. So that's also held on with a clip pretty similar to the one that holds the seal head in. Just want to find the divide. There we go. Let's get the piggyback off quickly. Will probably help us. Can even get some of the old oil out. Get it cleaned up. So as you can see, circlip comes out. We should be able to turn this a little bit just to get it out completely. That we'll be able to clean up. Okay, so what we might have to do is just back the let's see if we can just get the piggyback off. What happens is basically pulls a bit of a vacuum. Just makes it really difficult. There we go. Vacuum is broken. Can get that off. You can see that old oil. Yeah, it's pretty manky. Right, so basically inside your piggyback you've got a piston. Some shocks work with a rubber reservoir or a rubber bladder. Okay guys, so this piggyback on this shock uses a piston and not a rubber bladder. So what happens is as the shock shaft moves up and down in the body, the volume that the shock shaft enters the body has to be displaced, or the volume of oil. So what happens is that volume of oil is pushed through the valving in the top of the shock into the top section of the piggyback. It then pushes the piston downwards. Your shock oil itself is non-compressible, but the nitrogen that sits below the piston in the piggyback is compressible. So what happens is that oil volume pushes down on the piston, the nitrogen then gets compressed even though it is under pressure, and when the shock returns to its normal position on the rebound stroke, the nitrogen pressure below the piston will raise the piston back to keep the oil under pressure. So it's quite important that the oil stays under pressure because the valving in the shock sees the oil actually as a solid. So any time when the oil is not under pressure, what happens is the oil itself can start to froth and cavitate, and the minute you get bubbles in the oil, your damping characteristics are done. So that's how it works. Hope that makes sense. Let's carry on stripping and cleaning.
You ready?
Okay guys, so we've managed to get it more or less loose. There's another clip inside. It's got to come out. And these ones can be really difficult purely because, as you can see, I've got about 1 centimeter worth of space that I have to work through. Let's see if I can get it loose. I can see the clip move. So we try and get it loose. Sometimes a small screwdriver, sometimes the clip pick.
come to the other side quickly.
Let's see if I can get in. There we go. Definitely in. Let's get that clip out. Possible. Oh, she's climbed back into her groove and wants to give me some grey hairs today. Right, let's try one more time. There we go, we seem to be over the groove, onto the screwdriver. Right guys, so we've managed to get it open. That is the shock piston, and if you look very carefully you can see the shims. That is the valving, and that controls the oil flow. That is your piston ring. Like a motorcycle engine cylinder, you got the ring that opens and closes. That is your ring. So we'll have to basically dismantle this lot, clean it, so that we can fit a new seal head cap when we make that. But we'll have to definitely make 2 parts for this series. So for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in part 2.